Yo, 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 Tom, how you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. This is not the smartest guys in the room. We're back for another week. Not the smartest guys in the room. We are going to talk about calls to action today. I'll pick my brain on some things. We'll have Tom's thumbs, maybe a show and tell.
Maybe a show and tell. I
Buttons,
see
like
I'm
things
looking at
are
buttons, like
not going right, but
things are not going right, but I will just
what are you
move
looking at?
on.
What are you so focused on?
What are you looking at? What are you so
Wait,
focused on?
you got a weird like delayed repeat thing happening on your audio here. So I don't know. Do you have the audio on your computer muted?
Let's see here.
Let's see here. Okay. Now, how do I sound?
There we go. That's better. That whole intro
We
had a
say
weird
we are not
delay echo on it.
We call ourselves not the smartest guys in the room for a reason. So, well, that's how we do it. Okay, I see Teresa. I see Madison in the house today. We're talking about calls to action. We have a Tom's Thumbs, a show and tell. We'll see who meets us today on where are we streaming today, Tom?
We are live across the internet. We're streaming on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitch, TikTok, and YouTube. So we're all over the place. We're all over the map. That probably is a accurate way to describe it, right? We're all over the map.
Yeah, that's good. All over the web of maps. Okay, not the smartest guys in the room. Calls to action. Good, bad, and the ugly. That's what you brought up. Calls to action. They can be good, right? I might have a deal. I might have free tickets to the game tomorrow, or that if you don't, you might miss an opportunity sometimes, right? So I would think there's merit to a call to action a lot of times. Like maybe I only have so many slots for an opportunity. Okay, now you could say that's really not an opportunity, that's junk. But I think there's probably a time and a place for calls to action, and the time where it becomes sleazy. So there's good, there's bad, and there's ugly. So Tom, as we get into this, do you have early thought on the good, the bad, the ugly, to calls to action?
Yeah, unsurprisingly, yes. I have some thoughts to share. Especially given that it was my idea for a topic, so I better have something to say, right? Yeah. So look, I think calls to action, I don't think they're inherently bad, but I think they are misused, and I think they're overused. There became this sort of thing where there was an idea in social media content and social media marketing, and this goes back several years, where people kept saying, make sure you include a call to action, make sure you include a call to action. And eventually what that became was everything has to have a call to action. And I reject that idea. I reject that premise. I think that is absolutely untrue. And I think it's detrimental for everything to have a call to action, just like anything else. If everything is one way, then that way becomes watered down, right? The call to action is more easily ignored if you put a call to action on everything you share or every piece of content you create or everything you put out into the world, right? So it is watered down by overuse and it becomes less effective over time, right? And I think that's one of the main problems with calls to action is that people have overused it. It has become watered down, and so they're relatively ineffective. The other side too is because they're so prevalent, people know it when they see it, right? They know what the call to action is, and usually the call to action is actually not to benefit the customer or the client, i.e., like what you're talking about, or the member of the community, what you're talking about with if you have a giveaway or you have that's fine, right? A call to action. I'm going to give this away. I need you to do this so you can enter for the giveaway. Totally fine, right? That makes sense. There's something in it for the audience, but most of the time there's nothing in it for the audience. In fact, all they're doing is giving up their email address or giving up their information so that they can be spammed by other pieces of content that all also contain calls to action. And it's just this never ending sort of, never ending loop of calls to action. And really all these businesses are trying to do, all they're trying to do with this marketing onslaught with these calls to action is to capture your contact information so that they can put you into their CRM so that they can try to sell you, right? And there's nothing in it for the audience. And that's where we are with calls to action and how they're sort of broadly used in a lot of places. And I think that's the problem, right? Is that calls to action now have become shorthand for ways to capture contact information so that you can sell to someone later. And people see through it, right? And I know personally, right? Obviously this is anecdotal, but I know personally that if I see a piece of content that contains an overhanded call to action that transparently I can tell is really just an attempt to secure my information, my contact information, I immediately move past it. Immediately move away from that piece of content. I'm immediately disinterested in whatever that company is doing or saying or selling, even if there's merit to it. Even if it's a company that normally I would support, I'm immediately disinterested and turned off by the overuse of the call to action because I know what's coming down the pike, and what's coming down the pike is a hard sales pitch, and I'm not here for it, right? So I think calls to action are overused, and I think what people should be thinking about is, instead of adding a call to action in everything you do, extend invitations, right? Instead of putting in a call to action that is a transparent attempt to get someone's contact information so you can sell to them down the road or move them one step further in your sales funnel, extend an invitation. Make sure you're giving something of value for that community, for those people who you're trying to get information from. Make sure that exchange is a two-way street, right? Because it shouldn't be a one-way street. And I think in a lot of cases it is. And calls to action are kind of like the first domino that fell that led us to that place with a lot of the marketing that we see on social media. So that's what I think about calls to action.
I should have made that a Tom's thumbs because you came out hot on calls to action. Teresa gives you a thumbs up. Madison L. Okay, we're going to go to Teresa. Calls to action, good, bad, ugly. Do you have a question? Do you want to weigh in on it? Go on, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing well. So anytime I make a video or a reel, it's never on my mind to do that call to action, because it's like I'm rising to the challenge of creating video content. But so my thing of it is that I try to create engagement where, if I recently posted a water challenge to see how much water you can get. We don't drink enough water, and that's all I'm doing. And then I put, could you please put in the comments what your goal is? I'm not really asking them to follow me or do anything other than just say, drink more water. But there's a reason down the line, because I have a product that's going to help you want to drink more water, but I'm not saying that, So, but then also too, if I
Teresa,
wanted to offer value, I think that I would rather just tell somebody how they can I extend an invitation for you to reach out to me so we can connect. I think that would be a better way to put it. Thanks.
Okay, so Teresa, I just challenging back, just because if you're, or Tom, and just think about this in the room, if I do 10 videos, right? I've done 1,000 videos, but I've probably done more than 1,000 videos at this point. A lot of them, they just, I get whatever message out I want to get, these 3 points. Hey, catch you later. Have a great day. Go get out there and share your story, whatever it is. But every once in a while, I might say, hey, if you enjoyed the video, there's going to be more videos like this. Hit the subscribe button so you get notifications when I'm doing more content like this. Is that so dirty? Teresa, then Tom, and then we'll move around. Teresa, what do you think?
I'm not sure. I don't know if it's dirty or not. I don't know.
Go,
I don't have a comment.
Okay, I'm not opposed to, you could say, oh, how sleazy. How is, like, people used to say, like, smash the like button, hit the subscribe button. Like, when I used to do videos with my daughter, she would point to we'd make subscribe, come on, and she'd be like, ding, ding, So is that dirty, Tom? I mean,
you scumbag. No,
yeah.
no, it's not dirty at all. I mean, I think, like, here's how I would phrase that, right? Is like, hey, if you like this video and you want to see more like it, hit the subscribe button, right? It's just because at the end of the day too, like, you're not asking them to give you anything, right? It's a very low ask, right? It's a small ask, and it doesn't mean that they have to divulge information to you, right? So it also doesn't mean that, like, oh, if you like this video, make sure you go to my website, fill out the form, and I'll send you another video like it. Well, now you're saying to them, go to my website, fill out this form, and I'm going to put you in my sales funnel, right? Like, that's the subtext there. But yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with asking people to hit the like button or the subscribe button, right? Um, uh, I guess you could ask them to smash it if you want, if that's your thing. But yeah, I don't think there's anything, like, dirty or sleazy about it.
Okay, let's dig into this a little more, because I'm gonna push a little more on where, let's say I have a product, or if Tom has a product that he believes in and the world doesn't necessarily know about it. So, like, is it wrong to say here, like, Legendeering, great book. I was just talking to my friend Debbie Griffiths the other day, and she said, when I read Legendeering, this is a book by Tom, she said, I felt like Tom was speaking to me. It was in Tom's voice. I said, yeah, we thought it was very well done. We believed in how you wrote Legendeering. So I don't think it would be wrong if Tom has a book that has a lot of value in it to say, hey, if you like this content, check out Legendeering. It's, check out my book, Legendeering. I cover 10 of these subjects. Okay. There is a call to action there. I gave you value in my post, whatever, but I'm also saying, check this out. Why is that wrong? Is that wrong?
I mean, I don't think that's wrong in the right context, right? Like,
okay, there we go.
If I ended every video I did with, like, hawking Legendeering, or I ended every piece of content with hawking Legendeering, that would be wrong, right? Or hawking some product or my services, right? If I didn't give anything, right? If everything I did had strings attached, it would be a problem, right? I mean, think about it. Step away from business for a second, right? Because I think sometimes when money gets involved, it muddies the waters for people, right? So just think about it in terms of how you would react personally. If you had a friend who you saw regularly, and every time you guys hung out, say you had a group of people, and every Friday you would go out for, like, a beer after work together, right? And it becomes a thing, and you do it for a while, but there's one person in that group who every time they buy a round, right? And you guys would take turns buying rounds, right? It's my week, it's Dom's week, whatever, right? And every time that friend's turn came up to buy a round, as they came and put the beers down in front of you, they said, this one's on me, but only because I know you're going to buy me a beer next week. Right? Or only because you're going to buy a beer. And if you said, oh, I don't know if I'm coming next week, and they took the beer away, right? How would you feel about that? How would you feel about that friend? You'd instantly start questioning whether or not they're actually your friend, right? Like, all of a sudden, attaching strings to those kinds of things, it feels very icky, right? It feels very uncomfortable, and it feels very disingenuous, right? Because you're looking at them going, hey, that's not the spirit in which we're doing this. Like, this is a bunch of people getting together, having fun, having a couple of beers on a Friday to wind down from the week, or, welcome in the weekend or whatever. And all of a sudden you're putting conditions on whether or not you'll buy me a beer based on whether or not I might be here next week. Like, I'm going on vacation with my family. Like, what kind of jerk move is that to like not give me a beer or take a beer away, right? Because I might not be here next week to buy one for you. Like, take a hike, pal. I don't want to hang out with you anymore, right? Instantly, you like it is aggressively negative, right, in the perception that it creates. And that's what calls to action do. When you include a call to action to everything, you're attaching strings, right? And you're saying, hey, I'm going to keep doing this, but only if you agree to take the next step in my sales funnel, right? And ultimately, that sales funnel leads to giving me your money. So really what the businesses are saying when they attach strings to everything, when they put calls to action on everything, is they're saying, hey, I'm here for you so long as you give me money. But if you don't give me money, I don't care about you. It's not a good way to do things. It's not a good way to build relationships. That's the problem.
Fair points all around. Not the smartest guys in the room. We're talking calls to action, good, bad, and ugly. So could there be too many? Could there be not enough? Could it be sleazy? Could you not be good at it? Should there be times that you have calls to action? All right, we're going to hear from my friend Madison, who's early to Clubhouse. So she's going to unmute. You got to push a little thing on the right. Okay, she's 1 for 1. So Madison, as you enter the world of sales and things like that, how are you feeling about calls to action? Do they make you feel dirty and sleazy? What are you thinking about them?
Well, first of all, can everybody hear me?
Sound like $1 million.
Okay.
You get a double thumbs up from Tom. There you go.
Amazing. Well, I guess, yeah, constructing a call to action, it's not something that necessarily comes natural to me. And I feel like when I'm following these pages and, entrepreneurs or anybody, when I see an ad, I feel like it's so obvious when there's a call to action. It's very apparent. I feel like I can, sniff one out in every single ad that comes on my page or everybody who's selling something. And so maybe something that I'm gaining from this is instead of being so obvious about it, like, push the like button or subscribe or whatever, you can be more covert about it and maybe suggest like, well, I post helpful stuff like this all the time. This is maybe something else that I've talked about in a different post or something that I've talked about in my book, something like that. Just making it a little bit more, fly under the radar, I guess, a little bit more disguised is sort of what I've gleaned.
Yeah, and I think Madison, in first of all, happy to have you here. Welcome. But I think in response to that, what I would say is rather than trying to be sort of covert or like a little kind of do it in the shadows, so to speak, that can, if people sniff that out, and people are surprisingly good at sniffing that kind of stuff out, it can create an issue where it turns them off instantly because they see that you're trying to be sneaky about it, right? So I say rather than trying to kind of sneak a call to action in, right, extend an invitation. Almost no one is ever upset about being extended an invitation. And if we go back to the metaphor that I was using before, that I constructed about going out for beers on a Friday with a group of coworkers, right? If there was somebody new to your team or new to the office and you turned around to them and said, hey, we usually go out on Fridays to grab a beer after work, just wind down from the week and usher in the weekend, you're welcome to come if you like. If not, no worries. Like, just wanted to make sure you knew that you were included, right? Nobody's going to be mad about that. No reasonable person. I mean, some people might be mad about it, but you can't account for everybody. But no reasonable person would be like, how dare you invite me out to have a beer with you guys? That is unbelievable, right? Like, nobody's going to react that way. That's unreasonable. And so think about it that way instead. Like, think about trying to extend that invitation and just leave it open-ended. Let them make the choice. Don't create a situation where they feel kind of forced into it. Yeah. So that's what I have to say about that. I'm curious, Elle threw a comment in the chat. So going to Elle next. I'm curious to hear, Elle, where you would draw the line there, because I agree with you that there is a sort of a distinction to be made, and I think calls to action can be used well and effectively, and they have their place, but they don't belong everywhere, right? So Elle, where would you draw that line between an ad having a call to action and content or other marketing materials or collateral not having a call to action?
Hey, hi everybody. I'm in my car, so I hope that you can hear me okay. But
Coming in
so
loud and
for
clear.
me, great. This is great. For me personally, if I am running an ad, I am running an ad. I'm paying for it. I am unapologetic about asking for your business. Um, that is entirely different to me. Just like your dentist sending you a flyer in the mail or whatever. You are clear about your intent. You have, and maybe even you've got value added in the ad, but I'm actually very clear and make it clear that I have an offering, and here's how you can interact with this offering. My content, on the other hand, I feel very differently about. That, in fact, I just did a reel yesterday where I invited my community, and that should be the focus, is community and not the sales. um, but I invited my community to I do wine education, so I do a Sunday series that is all wine education, and I invited my community for feedback on ideas, things they want to learn about. That gets people talking. Oh, I want to hear about tannins, or does red wine cause a headache? Is that a myth? Sulfites, why are they good or bad, or is that just misinformation? It starts a conversation. I am not asking them at that point for a sale. What I did ask them for were their ideas. So it gets engagement, and I'm engaging back. That's a great idea. I'll add that to our calendar. Or we did go over that. I'll send you a video where I covered that issue. Um, so having very clear ideas, and I think your people will appreciate that they can tell the difference, right? You are adding value, and I think that is the key right there, is making sure that your content is teaching them about what it is you are eventually going to ask them to interact with. Education or entertainment, and that has always been the case, but I don't interact with pages or accounts where it is every post is a sale and I didn't learn anything, or I might learn something if they dangle the carrot out and I paid blah blah blah. But I've learned nothing to the point where I don't know if they actually have anything to teach me yet. So I'm not going to interact. I'm kind of with you, Tom. I'm like, if every piece of content is a sale ad and you haven't actually provided any value, I'm deciding right there, like I'm shutting that off. I'm not hitting follow. I'm moving on.
Hey, Al, you have this, you have a nice formula here and a great take on it. Do you use in your marketing, in your advertising, do you use like a formula like 80% content, 20% ad, or 90 content, 10 ad, or do you, because a lot of people are probably
Yes,
confused by that starting out. And so what do you do?
I would say it's at least 80% content. I am very free with my information. I want people to feel like whether they bought from me or not, they learned something, or they were entertained, or they felt a part of something, because people that feel a part of something will trust you and they will buy from you. That old adage, people buy from people they know, like, and trust. That is true. And it is true online as it is out in the marketplace in real life. So, I mean, like, that's still a thing. If every time we're together, I'm selling you something in real life, you are going to avoid me. And so I try to make, and I'm passionate about what I'm doing, so that's easy. It is very easy for me to post videos and content about what it is I'm doing, because whether it's, teaching women how to fly fish, or it is as a sommelier in the wine education space, I am very intentional about making sure people actually learn something. And that makes it easy, because then when I am posting something and a paid for or non-paid for ad, it is because I feel very passionate about the item, this is what's going on. We just talked about, Viogniers, or we just talked about Chenin Blancs. I have this great sale, blah, blah, blah. So it's very easy then to delineate between the two, but mostly it is content that is not asking for anything but their engagement with each other and with me.
Yeah, I think that's a great response, Al. I mean, a lot of people talk about sort of like the 80-20 rule. You hear 80-20 rule kind of like bandied about in a lot of different contexts, right? But this is another place that I've heard it sort of bandied about, that your content should be sort of 80% sort of marketing content marketing for your audience, and then 20% advertising or sales content. And I think, I mean, who knows? I'm definitely not the expert to say this is the percentage or this is the ratio you should use. But I agree with you. You should 100% delineate between those kinds of content, right? Nobody begrudges businesses selling things, right? We all understand that businesses sell things, whether it's services or products. Businesses sell things to make money, and nobody is upset about a business selling their product or service to make money. Nobody gets mad about that. What they get mad about, what they get frustrated with, is the sort of over the top or overwhelming sales tactics of making everything, every piece of content, every communication, everything you do about making a sale, right? And what that undermines, to your point, Al, is the ability for that business to build trust with their audience, right? Because the audience is looking at this going, everything I see from them is trying to get money out of my pocket. And how that makes me feel is they don't care about me. They don't care about what I'm doing or what I'm dealing with or the problems I may face. And they're not trying to solve those problems. They're just trying to get green pieces of paper out of my pocket. And that doesn't engender trust, right? It undermines trust. And that's the big problem, I think, is that it undermines trust. And then, businesses look around and go, I don't understand why sales are falling off, or why our sales have stagnated, or why we're having trouble growing. It's like, because you're not bringing people in, right? You're not welcoming people in. You're not extending invitations for people to come in, learn about you, see how you can help them, understand how working with you is going to benefit them, et cetera, et cetera. You're just saying, hey, give me your money. And if you're not going to give me your money, get out of here. I got no time for you. Right. And that's not a good message to grow an audience or to build community. So yeah, I agree with you, Al. I definitely agree with you. Dr. Tachi is here. I'm sure Dr. Tachi has some thoughts. We're talking calls to action. Are they overused? When are they okay to use? What are your thoughts, Dr. Tachi, on calls to action?
Good morning. This thing did not want to unstick. Good morning, everyone. So calls to action, lots of thoughts on calls to action. So I think it has to do with relationship and relationship building also. I know that there is, and you've all said this, building value or offering value is the strongest way to form a relationship where people will want to purchase what you have. So a good example, a good friend of mine, Shay Cannon, she does a morning show every morning on YouTube where she talks about business, building your first six figures. She's not asking you for anything. She's just at 4 days a week giving value. Because of giving that value, people see how adept she is, and I'm like, oh well, how else can I work with you? And they'll ask, like, in the comments, because it's also a Zoom in addition to being on YouTube, and then she'll have the links ready. Well, here's the link for whatever, and then when you get to her website, it has everything lined out. So she's at that point, or she has built her business to that point where I don't have to sell to you every 5 minutes, because I have the folks that that I work with. But if you'd like to work with me, here's the information. Once you ask. So I love that approach, because she has given us such free value that you feel compelled to. I must work with this woman in some other way. What else do you have? So that's the approach that I like to. It's not even really a strong call to action. It's an implied call to action, because once you see what she has, you will ask for more. Secondly, there's this this person this lady that my sister and I know, and we call her Mary Kay. At this point, I can't even remember her real name because every time we would encounter her, this is when we both lived in DC, she was always selling something. In fact, that's how my sister met her on the elevator in her building, selling something. Said, hey, do you like this perfume or whatever? So, the whole approach sometimes with these types of MLMs is to befriend you and then to constantly sell to you. There's always a call to action. So, like you were saying, we avoided her because it's like, oh gosh, Mary Kay is coming, because we knew she was always going to try and sell us some damn Mary Kay. So that's what you want to avoid, and it's painfully obvious that you're interested in my money and not my friendship or any type of relationship. So that's what you want to avoid. And then thirdly, the thing that gets me about all of this, the same old tired webinar where people are offering you value, and I have no problem with that, but it mirrors the same formula all the time. They use something like a webinar jam or the same platform, and so you give me the information, and then lo and behold, I know I'm about to leave because I know the offer is coming, and I don't have a problem with the offer, not at all. But it mirrors the same thing, and it always feels the same. It's as if these people went to the same coach, which oftentimes they do, to learn how to do this, and they mirror the same thing. So right away, I can tell, oh, here comes the offer, time for me to bounce. So if you're going to do that type of thing, in my opinion, you ought to find a different way of doing it. I'm not saying don't have an offer, but find a different way of doing it where it doesn't feel like the same thing, and therefore it becomes less effective because people drop off at the end. And I am complete.
Dr. Tachi, you nailed it all across the board. Isn't it stink when you feel like you're a friend, somebody is your friend, and then all of a sudden they hit you up like constantly, like you said about Mary Kay, and well, I thought we were friends. I thought we were just having a business call to get to know each other, and then they come and have all these offers for you. I had one of those this week, and I was taken by surprise. I wasn't expecting. I thought we were closer, and then I got pitched and pitched and pitched and pitched and upscaled pitched and upscaled pitched, and I was like, oh, I didn't know. Now Tom hadn't told me the subject of this week's show yet, so I wasn't even thinking about it. Had he already told me the subject of the show, then I would have been really affected by it. Okay, not the smartest guys in the room. Thank you. What do you got, Tom? Go on.
I just got one thing I want to say in response to Dr.
It's about to be Tom's thumbs, and you're interrupting me. Go on.
I'm not
man.
interrupting. I'm pumping the brakes because I want to say something real quick before we get to Tom's thumbs so that it makes sense, right? Before we move on. So anyway, I just Dr. Tachi, in reference to what you said there about like the webinar thing, I think the place where people go wrong with that, because I think there's a ton of opportunity if you do it right, to use free education programming, right, to help build an audience and to ultimately grow your customer base. But I think you have to do it the right way. And I think the key is to make sure that you're being honest and realistic about what the expectations are, what people can actually get out of coming to your free masterclass or whatever. Masterclass is usually the term people use rather than webinar, right? But like, so say, you're doing a free masterclass, and I'm actually going to be doing this. So this is something I'm going to be putting into practice, right? To help build out my Legendeering Academy. But for this, like, I think you have to be honest and realistic about what people are going to get out of that free masterclass. Like, you can't promise them the moon and then under deliver, which is what a lot of people do to try to get people to register. They say, you're going to learn these 3 secrets that'll make you $1 million in my masterclass. And then you show up for the masterclass and they give you one of the secrets and tell you got to pay for the next 2, right? Like, so that's one, is like, don't overpromise and under deliver, but then also, make sure that they are getting actual value that they can put into practice out of it, and then extend the invitation to work together if they want to learn more, right? But it's not, you don't have to do, right? It's the idea of the dangling the carrot that I think a lot of people get wrong in this context, where they say like, oh, I'll get them in there, right? I'll get them to register. I'll get them to sign up. And then I'll just say, if you want to learn the next step, you have to pay me, right? If you want to learn this, or you want to learn here, I've given you this concept. If you want to learn how to apply it or learn how to use it or actually make this useful, you have to pay for it, right? Stop dangling carrots, like give people value and then extend invitations, right? And people will take you, some people will take you up on those invitations, but stop doing the dangle the carrot thing. Stop like leading people on. Give them value and then extend an invitation. And some people will take you up on it. Some people won't. And you can't begrudge the people that don't, right? I think it's just that simple. So thanks everybody for being here. Appreciate you guys. This is not the smartest guys in the room, as all of you know, because I think everybody in here has been here, at least once before. So welcome to Not the Smartest Guys in the Room. We're broadcasting live all over the internet. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube. We're on LinkedIn. We're on Twitch. We're on TikTok. We're on all the places. And yeah, we appreciate you guys being here. You guys are the reason why we do this. And now, without further ado, we're going to get back to, we're going to keep going around the room. So Jason, Jamie, Lois, don't go anywhere. We're coming to you guys next. But in the meantime, first, before Dom gets mad at me for changing the subject, we got to go to Tom's thumbs so you can hear me opine or rant or make a fool out of myself about some random subject.
Part of the show is that we have to jump around, and I will get agitated if we don't jump from one subject to another. So we just throw in segments so we can jump from one subject to another. So I wanted to go super polarizing with you today, Tom. There's so much going on in the world today, like with government and all that stuff. So today, the subject I wanted to tackle with you is daylight savings time. What does Tom think about daylight savings?
So, look, I think daylight savings is has outlived its usefulness, right? Like changing the clocks, twice a year, going back and forth between daylight savings time and standard time, right? I kind of believe, or sort of am on the side of just going to daylight savings time, period, end of story. We're not switching back and forth to standard time versus daylight savings time twice a year. I don't think it makes a lot of sense. It's a holdover from it was not farmers, right? It was actually railroads that instituted daylight savings time back in the day, or lobbied to have it instituted. I believe. If I'm wrong about that, correct me. But I know it wasn't actually farmers. That's the sort of common myth, was that it was the farmers' idea to do daylight savings time, and it wasn't. But yeah, I think absolutely that we have no need for it. It doesn't help anything, and not for nothing, but like people die every year because of daylight savings time. I know that seems hyperbolic and ridiculous, but if you look at death rates around the clock changes every year, there's a little spike, right? And some of those death rates are attributed to issues with daylight savings time, added stress, people oversleep, they're late for work, et cetera. We get people added stress. Rates of heart attacks go up around daylight savings time or clock changes every year. So, look, I think it's silly. There are parts of the country already that are just on daylight savings time and don't go back and forth between daylight savings time and standard time. So yeah, I don't think we need it. I don't see a good reason for it. If somebody wants to present one, great. But I would venture to guess that they don't have a good reason for it. It's just one of those things that, like, I kind of think it falls under the category of like, well, it's the way we've been doing it for, 100 years. And it's like, well, that's great. But things are different today than they were 100 years ago. So like, how about we reevaluate? Maybe we should look at things like 100 years ago. We didn't, people didn't even know what computers were. Right? 100 years ago, the idea of a computer didn't even make sense. And now we all walk around with computers in our pockets, more powerful than the computers we used to send people to the moon, right? Things change. Times change. Change is a constant in some way, if you think about it. It is constantly happening. We cannot stop it. We cannot arrest it. It will happen regardless of whether or not we want it to. And I think a change that is long overdue is to get rid of changing clocks twice a year and just stick to daylight savings time, period, end of story. So changing the clocks gets a thumbs down. Sticking to daylight savings time gets a thumbs up.
There you go, Tom. You give a lot of thumbs downs on this segment. I got to find something. I'm going to bring out like puppies next week, cute puppies, and see if you find a way to give it a thumbs down.
I have been accused of deep down inside being the old man in his robe on his front porch yelling at the kids to get off his lawn. I've been accused of sort of embodying that person. Even when I was, in my teenage years and early 20s, my college roommates used to get me going on stuff because they loved to get me wound up and watch me rant about things. So I've been this way forever. I mean, I don't know what to say, but it is, I am who I am. I like some stuff.
We'll try to find it. I'm just asking the room if you know how to give emojis. Is there a hug emoji? Let's all give Tom a hug in our profile.
Stop touching me. I don't want strangers touching me.
He needs a hug. Okay. So Madison, did you have something to add about that?
I did. I have one very simple reason why daylight savings is still honored.
Bring it. We love disagreements. Go on. Then we're going to Jason, Lois, and Joe. Go on.
It's by no means a disagreement. I also despise daylight savings, and it really messes up my daily life. But the reason I guess that it still goes on in my community is so that kids can walk home from school in the daylight. Sometimes in high school I would walk to school and it'd be dark outside, and I would get off of whatever sport practiced and it would be dark outside. And for safety reasons for kids going to school, that was one reason that daylight savings was helpful.
Thank you, Madison. Well done. Well done. Just the safety of children, Tom. So let's continue.
Give them flashlights. Or they probably all have phones. They've all got flashlights on their phones. They can use those.
So true.
Yeah, she proved you wrong. Thank you, Madison. Okay, Jason, back to calls to action, or if you want to disagree with Tom about daylight savings, go on.
Ready, Tom? Guess what? Daylight savings times was originally proposed even as early as back in 1784 by Benjamin Franklin to save energy and conserve energy at the same time. Was later proposed in 1916 and 1908 and 1916 in efforts to save time for conductors and farmers. So the origins of that goes back further than most of us know. I kind of did a little bit of background check while Tom was talking, but I get why people have a problem, because it's either it feels like life is going earlier or it's going later. I mean, that's up to you, but let's get back to the central question at hand. Calls to action. Calls to action, they're benefits. A lot of times they're benefits, but our egos tend to argue against the benefits of execution. That's a summary of what I think about them. Calls to action is look, there is requirements, and there are things that, if I don't do them, there are consequences, but to each is their own of how they answer, calls to action. And if you do, then hey, great, good for you, but some people are stuck in emotional paralysis about calls to action because they're either over comparing or they're working from a place of I don't know, and taking that I don't know risk and being wrong is worth a lot more to people, in the long run. How can you guarantee someone to be right for a risk, when it wouldn't really be a risk? So calls to action are very important. Hey, and it's good to see Elle. Hey, Elle, how you doing? But thanks, guys, for allowing me to be on Not the Smartest Guys.
Jason, man, we appreciate you. We appreciate your support. Jason's like OG in the room, so we appreciate that. Everybody who comes, I'd like to say, when you see me, you could be a lot of other places today. So we appreciate you facilitating this conversation with us. We are a platform, and you are the vehicle that makes it happen, the engine, all that. I just tried to interrupt Tom and make him mad. Okay.
Well, and I was going to say, Jason, thanks for looking that up. Obviously, I don't know the subject for Tom's Thumbs ahead of time, so I just have to sort of opine extemporaneously without the benefit of any time to do any research. So I appreciate you looking that up and making sure we all understand the origins of it. And I would argue that at the end of the day, it doesn't change my conclusion, but I appreciate the information. I always appreciate the information. And I was actually kind of quietly doing that on my own too, was looking it up as well. And I also saw that Benjamin Franklin.
It's okay. We can all be right and wrong at the same time, Tom. I appreciate you, man.
There you go, man. There you go. But thanks for doing that research. I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Okay, let's go. We're cruising around. We got not the smartest guys in the room. We're talking calls to action. Are they good? Are they bad? Should you do them sometime? Are you managing them? Are you saying, okay, like for me, I believe in like L's theory. I put out hundreds of pieces of content a week, hundreds of pieces of content. I'll have an ask 10 times. My goal is give, and then let people know what I do. And occasionally there's an ask involved in that, like an advertisement. So I used to be, I sold pharmaceuticals, I sold insurance, I sold yellow page ads. And when I sold insurance, one of the lines, I sold health insurance, 401ks. One of the lines was life insurance. And people always thought life insurance was a dirty subject to talk about. Like you're going to be one of these people that is going everywhere trying to sell me life insurance all the time. No, the secret that I learned was you just have to let people know what you do. So I would give people some golf balls or whatever that were branded. And I'd say, hey, I do sell life insurance. Just to let you know, if you ever need said life insurance, I will be there for you and I will take care of you. I will never bother you about this again. But just so you know, I do it. That was it. And that was the conversation. And it, in that sense, it was probably I let them know, but I didn't have to be dirty and sleazy about it, even in life insurance. So Lois, calls to action, good, bad, and the ugly. What do you got for us?
Hey, you guys. No, I'm just enjoying the conversation right into my next job. It's funny. My call to action there's been so many things in the past few days that I've been called to action about speaking out and creating spaces where people can feel comfortable, talk about and collaborate on some progressive forward movement to collaborate with people from, who just really want to raise everybody up. So it's nice to move forward and create rooms that people can have a discussion. And so that's my call to action, is continuing those rooms weekly, giving people a space to come in and update them and just how to move forward in a positive direction, steps they can take.
Lois, we appreciate who you are, you being you, and those safe spaces you are providing. So keep doing your thing. Yeah, she gives me those two hands. Those are two hands there. And an amen, I believe. What are those two?
That's a high five. What's the
that's
matter
double
with you,
high
Captain?
fives.
That's
Who
a high
high
five right
who
there.
high fives with two hands, right? I need explanation of all emojis. Okay, let's see here. Okay, not the smartest guys in the room. I'm looking at this thing. It says NTSG, and I had to. Julie Loken came up with the abbreviation NTSG, by the way.
Dominic, can I tell you a funny story real quick before I have to go on mute and go do some things?
Go on, Lois.
One day I was in your room and I was on the stage. I wasn't saying anything. I was just listening. And I said something like, you guys were talking about something, and I said something out loud. And then I said, he said, what do you listen to? And I said, not the smartest guys in the room. And he goes, that's not very nice. I said, no, you don't understand. That's the name of that. He goes, oh, so he had your back. I just want you to know that.
Yeah, well, I would say we wear that moniker proudly, right? The idea is, obviously, and for folks who are newer here or who haven't been back in a while, I'll just remind everybody where the name came from. The idea was we always want to have brilliant people coming into this space, sharing their ideas, adding to the conversation, and giving us information, right? The idea is for us to not be the smartest guys in the room, to surround ourselves with brilliant people who know more and who can help us learn and understand things better. And so that's the idea, the impetus behind the name, and why I say we wear the moniker proudly, because that's the goal, is to not be the smartest guys in the room. And I think, as demonstrated on a relatively regular basis, we are often not the smartest guys in the room, and we do silly things, and we make silly mistakes, and to err is human, right? So we wear it proudly, and welcome everybody here. I think really quickly before we get to Joe, I want to do show and tell real fast. Then we'll go to Joe, and then we'll wrap things up, because we are rapidly approaching the hour here. So, Dom, what do you got for show and tell this week?
I like these rapid fire segments. And I remember when we used to drone on like in the middle of the pandemic for like 3 hours, and they were never ending. And all of a sudden we'd be talking about the weirdest things. And people were like, I don't think I came to hear about that. Okay, so today I'm going to share with you the most rare piece of memorabilia that nobody else has. This is my Franco Harris. This is Franco Harris drawn on a piece of burlap. Now, why would somebody draw Franco Harris on a piece of burlap? I don't know. But Franco Harris caught one of the greatest, the immaculate reception ball for the Steelers. I got this at a yard sale, but I don't know why anybody would choose burlap as their canvas. So that's what I got for you today, Tom. Franco Harris on burlap.
So what I'm really curious about is why they chose to make his helmet not fit.
No, come on. It's he's wearing it up over his head.
I mean,
like he's hanging out on the sideline.
It doesn't read
Dr.
that way.
Tachi, do you think, come on, Dr. Tachi, Dr. Tachi usually sees these. So do you think this helmet doesn't fit, or is it up over his head?
It looks like it's floating on his head.
You guys, here's some guy. He probably drew this. It was a passion of his lifetime. He's probably watching Not the Smartest Guys thinking, I sold this at my yard sale to this passionate Steelers fan, and you just dumped all over him. So,
I mean, it looks like they were like, let's give him a child's helmet.
How hurtful. This is the first time you have taken just a dump on my precious piece of memorabilia.
All right. In my defense, I don't think it's the first time.
Really quickly, could it be that he was starting to take the helmet off?
That's what I'm saying, Dr. Tachi. He's hanging on the sideline. They wear him up over their head.
Right. Here's my point, though, Dom. It's a painting, not a photograph. You have a choice, right? Like the artist, whoever drew that, had a choice to put his helmet in a way that didn't make it look like it was either ill-sized for his giant head, or that he was just wearing it, or it was off. Like that, those were all choices made. And my argument is that they weren't all good.
He also has a coat on. Football players don't wear a coat while they're playing.
Sometimes on the sidelines in cold weather, they actually do.
Right, and then that's when they keep their hat up, their helmet up. Hey, before we go on,
let's go. We got Joe.
Hey, I will tell you, when I played football in 7th and 8th grade, I was like the world's worst player, and I was like 5'3", weighed like 100 pounds, and I just was terrible and didn't really know the game back then. But I had a helmet that the mask was like this. For some reason, they gave me like the bad helmet on the team. Like, this kid's never going to get to play, so let's just give it. So I had to look out of it like this, and all the other players used to come up and grab the front of it and straighten my neck out. And I think I still have neck pains because of it.
I don't know what that what does that mean? I had a helmet like this. What does that mean?
The face mask was off center. So instead of the bar going right down the middle, my bar was way over to the side. So when I couldn't see out of my helmet right, so I had to bend my head like this, and everybody would try to straighten the mask on the front of my head, but it was not straight. No, there was no straighten in it. So instead, they just gave me kinks in my neck.
Is that why you like that painting? Is because you can empathize with the idea of like having a helmet that doesn't fit properly?
Man. I'm going to post 10 pictures of guys on the sideline with their helmet up today.
I'm not saying that guys don't do that. I'm just saying that was a choice by the artist, and it was a bad choice. It doesn't read well. in the image.
Now, I wonder if the artist actually signed it. Man, you are terrible. Not the smartest guys in the room. Call to action, good, bad, and ugly. Tom being mean. Okay, we got Joe and Julie, and then Tom's going to wrap it up. Joe, quickly, calls to action, good, bad, and ugly. Any thoughts on it? Nice to see you here. What do you got, my man?
It depends on timing. Let's say we said that we could save fuel in the 1700s, but it took until we decided we wanted war rationing to change daylight savings time. It actually took enough of an accumulation of an event before we said, yeah, we have enough momentum to vote for an act to change daylight savings time, because you know what? We need to save energy based on war rationing. So that's the reason why it ended up going over. That activation energy was satisfied, and we changed states because of it.
There you go, Joe. Okay, any thoughts on, well, that was a mix of call to action and daylight savings. So any thought, I want to know a thought on call to action. Go on.
Calls to action, I'll just share it generically. Keep trudging through whatever little piece of elephant that you have to digest, because eventually you'll get through it.
Gotcha, my friend. Okay, we talked to Lois, we talked to Madison, Jason, Dr. Tachi L, Teresa, Julie Loken. We have not heard from you today. So we're talking about calls to actions. You're in public relations. Are there bad calls to action? Are there good calls to action? What do you have for us, Julie Loken?
And I'll make this really quick because I know you guys are great with your time. And I think CTA, you need one. A lot of people forget to have a call to action and have it backed up by substance. I know these words are overused, but the know, like, and trust, a call to action won't work unless there's substance backing it up. Back it up. And it's so great to see Teresa and Madison here. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, right on, Julie. Good points. And it is nice seeing you again here. Not the smartest guys in the room. Calls to action, good, bad, and ugly. And Tom being mean. Tom, wrap up. What do you got for us?
Do you want me to just keep talking about the painting, or do you want me to wrap up on?
I've had that in my office. The only reason it's down is because we're finishing the basement. I'm fixing things. So for 10 years, I've looked at this beautiful painting, only thinking of it as perfect. And there you go, picking on the guy's helmet.
I got to tell you, Dom, if you looked at that painting and thought it was perfect this whole time, I feel like you should go see the optometrist, because it's not. It's fine. Hey, look, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. If you love it and appreciate it because it's about your beloved Steelers as you sit there hugging the frame, then that's great. But yeah, perfect is not the word I would use to describe that. I appreciate the value you see in it, but yeah, I think perfect is. I think we're getting a little hyperbolic.
Hey, you don't have one on burlap. Tom, are you going to wrap us up? Is this your wrap up today? Just you're going to keep talking about Franco Harris, or what? You don't got it. The pressure's too high on you.
No. I wanted to get one more dig in on the painting, and really it was just to get under your skin, because you do it to me, so I got to give it back to you, right? But anyway, let me leave you guys with this when it comes to calls to action. Here's the wrap up for you. When it comes to calls to action, I think the rule of thumb should be less is more, right? Make sure that your calls to action are tied to pieces of content where it actually makes sense, i.e. advertisements, right? Or content that is designed specifically to move your audience into or further down your sales process, right? That is a fine place to put a call to action, right? But that should be by far the minority of your content. The majority of your content should be value-driven, delivering value for your audience without strings attached. And you will find that if you shift that balance, if you put the majority of your content out with no strings attached, delivering value for your audience, and shift your calls to action to a minority of your content, you will find that your calls to action are more effective, right? They are more effective, and they attract more often the kinds of people that you actually want to work with, right? Stop playing the numbers game. Stop bombarding everybody. Stop carpet bombing people with calls to action. It doesn't work. It's not a good model. It's not sustainable in the long term. And ultimately, it will harm your business because it will undermine potential relationships that you could form with the audience, that you could form with your community. It will cost you in the long run. So stop doing it. Instead of calls to action, include invitations, right? Extend invitations, extend offers without strings attached to your audience, build trust with your audience and your community, and that trust will form the bedrock for relationships that in the long run are beneficial to both parties, right? That is the ultimate goal. So stop throwing calls to action out with everything and start extending invitations instead. And that's all I got for this week. Appreciate you all for being here very much. Appreciate you, Dom, for co-hosting this with me, for pushing my buttons and getting me to rant about things in Tom's thumbs and sharing weird paintings that you love about the Steelers. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate everybody being here with us. For Dom, I'm Tom. We are not the smartest guys in the room. We love you. We thank you. And we will see you guys next Wednesday right here at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. I'm not the smartest guys in the room. Until then, have a great rest of your week. Have a great weekend. We love you. Bye-bye now.